Hey Kyle, this is Laura and Lydia from the Secret Sisters. How are you?
Well, how are you all?
We're good. We're good.
Well, I'm so excited to be talking to you guys, especially since we've been waiting for this new album and hoping for the new album, and I should say excited to have you guys at WFPK's Waterfront Wednesday at the end of the season in September.
Yeah, that's going to be really nice. We're really excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having us out.
No, it's great. It's going to be a great way to close out the season, but not to get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot to do before then, and including releasing your album, which is going to be coming up. What's the actual release date on this?
It's going to be June 9th.
June 9th. You Don't Own Me Anymore. And that's a hell of a title. That's a hell of a statement. And
Yeah, we felt like we needed to come out
very subtle with it.
We wanted to come out swinging on that one.
I've been trying to figure out what the best entry point is for this conversation because I think there is a lot to talk about with this record. But since we're here, why don't we start with that title? Is there anything specific to the broader story that goes along with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an insanely complicated story, I guess, from a narrative standpoint. But when Lydia and I kind of started making our living as quote unquote professional musicians, in the beginning things really fell quickly into place, and so we found ourselves working with these just gigantic figures, T-Bone Burnett and Jack White, and we went on tour with Willie Nelson and Levon Helm and Paul Simon, and everything just happened so quickly, and it was in this momentum that we did not expect and were honestly not really prepared for. And so, in the beginning, everything just seemed to fall into place. And then a couple years ago, we just ran into a really terrible situation. We went through some splits with some business people that we had worked with for a long time, just soured relationships, and we got dropped from our major label deal, and we ended up in a lawsuit, and we ended up having to file bankruptcy to get out from under everything. And so, everything just kind of came to a screeching halt. We couldn't get shows easily, and we were really just kind of having to act as not only the artists in our career, but also the people running the business. And I know that that's something that a lot of artists have to do. They have to play both roles, but we just were not used to that. And so our creativity and inspiration was completely non-existent, and we just went through a lot of kind of changes and really dismal kind of outlooks. And we finally started writing again because we just didn't know what else to do. And the songs that we ended up writing, they were the healing process and the kind of cleansing of the spirit, I guess you could say. And one of the songs that we wrote in particular is called You Don't Own Me Anymore. And it's, it's kind of cryptically, it points to kind of everything that we discovered. I think Lydia and I both, we were guilty of kind of not believing in ourselves and always believing that everyone else knew better than we did what we needed to do and what path we needed to take. And through our terrible experiences of over the past few years, we realized that it's just the two of us singing together, and at the end of the day, we know what we need to do. And so this is our statement of kind of independence and resurrection and redemption.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a lot to draw from when you hit these songs. And is that what most of the songs ended up reflecting?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that every single song is directly related to that. It's kind of hard to explain.
I think that in a way we, a lot of it is kind of veiled language. We didn't feel like it would be very smart to write a song about, my feelings are hurt because I filed bankruptcy and I got dropped from my label, because to be honest, not many people can relate to such subject matter. And so we tried to kind of veil that subject matter with other more common, I guess, relatable imagery. But then, some of the songs are also like about our kind of discovery that everything that really matters to us is back home in Alabama, whether it's, we've got a sentimental song called Little Again that basically just talks about the desire to be a kid again when things were easier and you didn't have to worry about, filing bankruptcy or whether or not you were going to get a show to pay your bills. So there's a song about that kind of reflects on our childhood and how we sometimes long for it. And then there's a song called King Cotton that pays tribute to our home state of Alabama because, we spent a lot of time in Alabama, and it was kind of the place where we really kind of had to turn for comfort and reassurance, with our family and our friends who were there to guide us through the times when we really didn't think that we would ever play music again. So, it's just kind of a study in all the things that really kind of rose to the surface, that proved to matter more than we ever thought they did.
Right. I know Brandi Carlile now, at this point in the story, starts to play a big role as well, right?
Yes. She was kind of our saving grace in a lot of ways. We first met Brandi several years ago, actually at the very beginning of our careers. We went on tour with her and Ray LaMontagne, and ever since that tour, she has just been really like a mentor for us. She's called and checked on us, made sure we were okay, taken us out on several different tours, and just really acted like a sister to us in a lot of ways. And so when we went through the hard period, we kind of went to her for advice again, and we actually ended up playing a couple shows opening for her in Seattle in late 2015, and we at soundcheck played one of our newer songs that we had just written, and she said she actually watched us singing that song, and she was like, you better not have written that song. And so that was kind of the boost that we needed to continue, and we started having conversations about making a record together, and the rest is history. All of 2016 was spent making that record up in Seattle, and so we kind of owe everything to her. I would say we would not be here without her. So
we're such big fans of her and such big fans of you, and I'm listening to these songs with that in mind, and I can sort of hear a little bit of the influence in there, or the rub off maybe at some points, and I don't know to what extent her hand was in on the process, whether it was just producing, or did she help you guys with the writing too, or was that really separate?
She did help us kind of hone in on the writing process a little bit. We had 2 or 3 songs that we hadn't quite finished, or that needed a bridge or needed one word changed, and she really helped us get to the focal point of those. And I think she ended up co-writing on a couple of those songs. Mm-hmm. So she was very involved, which we wanted.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and the fun part of it is that she and Tim and Phil, her, wonderful twins that play with her, they are so multi-talented, and they can literally just sit down or pick up any instrument and figure out exactly what it needs to do. And so most of the musicianship on the record is them picking up a banjo or picking up, some weird little percussion instrument and putting it on there. And it just makes such a difference in the feel of the record. And so, one thing that we were not concerned about, but that we were mindful of, is not making, a Secret Sisters record that sounded like a Brandi Carlile record. We wanted it to sound like our personal record and our own journey, but with those little nuances that Brandi and the twins are so good at creating. And we were so pleased with just the amount of, it's just like the finishing touch and the little shine on it that they added, that's, very specific to the way that they sound and the way that they make music, but it still feels like our record. And so there are these moments where you'll hear something in the recording and we think back like, oh, that was when Tim picked up this really weird instrument and started shaking it around, and we loved the way it sounded, and then he put it on there. And so for us, it's almost like looking at a photo album as we listen to the record, because we go back to, the time in the studio when everything was new and exciting and a little scary, and it just couldn't have gone any better. It was just the most magical experience ever. Yeah. So lots of gratitude to those 3.
Speaking of photo album, who's the photo on the cover, the woman on the cover?
That is our paternal grandmother. Her name is Marcy.
Okay. How did she end up there?
She is now, well, it's a funny story. We were trying to figure out what we wanted the artwork to be for the album cover especially, and we had done maybe 3 different photo shoots that were going to be of just me and Laura, and we were searching for some old family photos because we liked the idea of having those incorporated maybe somehow into the album artwork. And actually my husband was going through them, and he was looking at that picture on his computer, and he zoomed in and he said, what if this was a single cover? And then I talked about it with Laura, and we were like, what if it was the album cover? And it just kind of seemed to, the look on her face just really seemed to embody everything we were trying to say. And we just loved the photo. She was 13. She had just gotten her first perm. And I don't know, we just liked paying that sort of tribute in an odd way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting because once we decided on that as the album cover, it really shaped the rest of the album artwork. So obviously, you know, nobody has seen the album artwork on the inside yet, but it kind of led us into this place where we started digging through every old family photo album. And so we started extracting all these photos of really powerful, impressive women in our family, you know, that have kind of guided us to a place of, you know, believing in ourselves, but also trying to maintain, you know, a little bit of grace and kindness. And so there's a lot of those pictures. Yeah, there's a lot of those pictures featured in the album artwork because it just kind of became this statement about, you know, what it means to be a woman who's figuring her way through the hard parts of life. And so I think, too, you know, there was a part of us that we had 2 records where we were, you know, made up in this very specific way with a really great photo of us on the album cover, and we love those album covers. But I think we needed to do something different, and we needed for this album artwork to depict that, you know, we've turned a corner and that there's something, you know, a little grittier about the Secret Sisters now. And so that was the logic behind it. And we're honestly so excited to have a picture of our grandmother on an album cover because it feels funny to put your own picture up on your wall, you know? Like,
right.
I'm going to put this picture of me on my wall, but if you put a picture of your grandmother, it's like cool.
That makes sense.
We actually just showed her the cover a couple weeks ago, and she looked at that and she was like, man, what a pretty young thing. She is now 86 years old.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it's cool to have something from the past really speaking for the present. As you're saying. I mean, it's such a cool story, you know?
Yeah, she's something else.
Well, I know I've only heard 2 of the songs from it with He's Fine and Tennessee River Runs Low, and both are so good. I mean, that Tennessee River Runs Low is just spellbinding, you know, the way it kind of raps. And I mean, I'll use that metaphor too. It really does rap and snake around like a river within the song.
Thank you.
I don't know how you guys did that.
That's a
but
cool way to put it. Thank you.
But the 2 songs are so good. I cannot wait to hear the rest of it. And again, we're so looking forward to having you guys at Waterfront Wednesday. Months away from us, but I know it'll be here before we know it. So
yeah, we're so excited. Can't wait.
Yeah, thank y'all again.
Yeah, well, thank you for speaking to me today, and congratulations on being back on the horse. And use the metaphor since we're in the Derby, I guess. And
yeah, there you go.
Feels good to be back.
Right. All right. We'll see you guys around soon then.
All right. Thanks, Kyle.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right,
Bye.
Bye-bye.